just
Cool.
so that's the recording in progress, Pam. Pam Grace, Access Consciousness
Certified
wizard.
facilitator.
Yeah, but the way Chris talks about you, he's absolutely in awe of your ability and also the what access consciousness can bring. As I say, I rewatched the video yesterday, and I came away yet again thinking this is how we should be living. So please tell me from your point of view, how did you get into it? What has it brought you?
Cool. Okay. Thank you, Susan. And thank you for inviting me to talk about my very favorite subject, which is consciousness, and in particular, access consciousness, which I discovered about 12 years ago when I was going through a particularly tricky period in my life. And as far as I was concerned, that was never meant to happen, because I'd been meditating for many years and doing what I thought was the right things and living a very perfectly, happy life, and then suddenly fell into a bit of a hole. And as a mental health nurse myself, I found myself on the other side of the fence, where I had become quite anxious and depressed in my 50s. And probably anyone that's been through any sort of menopause will know exactly what I'm talking about. Thankfully, I found access consciousness fairly quickly, so it didn't last for too long. And so I discovered access consciousness when I went for a massage. And my first introduction was to have an access bars session. And this is where we touch 32 points on the head that relate to all the different areas of your life. And you get to dissipate and release all of that electromagnetic charge that keeps us stuck in resistance and reaction and aligning and agreeing and the right and wrong and everything that we're impelled with, if you like, or is imposed upon us in this society, in this reality. And we buy it all as real and true, and we make it ours. And when you have your bars run and you begin to let go of all these points of view, you suddenly become aware of this space in your world, and you can begin to question, well, what would I actually like my life to be like? What is this life that I've been living, and am I choosing it? And what access consciousness does is it gives you a set of energetic tools and processes that, if you choose them, you can then become more conscious, more aware, and you begin to live your life from choice, which is what life's meant to be. You're meant to live life from choice, and it's meant to be fun, and nobody actually tells you this. I don't know about you, but my parents never said, go out there, have fun. That's what life's meant to be all about.
No. It was go out there, work hard, behave yourself.
Yes, be good. Be good, fit into this box so that people will approve of you and not judge you. And what I discovered was, when you begin to let go of the judgments of yourself, then it allows you this freedom to actually value you and see you as, and it may be that you begin to see yourself as someone totally different. Because what I've noticed is a lot of the people who choose access have always looked for something different and never actually quite known what it was. So when you start to get your bars run, start to use the tools and the processes, start to ask questions without necessarily looking for anything defined or any answer, any conclusion, but more looking at the possibilities of life. You know, what else is possible? What would I like my life to be like? And as you can probably tell, it's really quite exciting, and you become enthusiastic about life again because you're choosing it. You're getting to choose it. And Susan, you started off by saying, you know, Chris was so enthusiastic and I loved watching his video, and then life came and got in the way again, and you realized that you needed to keep choosing, to keep choosing the tools, to keep using the tools, and begin to kind of step into your power, if you like,
Yeah,
because it's what we are.
I think
We're
no, I was just going to say, I think that was a key phrase of yours where you said, am I choosing my life? And the fact is, no, you're
yes,
not. You're just bouncing along from one disaster to another, basically. Um, uh, and coping rather than choosing.
yes, and putting up with and fitting in, and avoiding. We do so much avoiding. We avoid being judged. I mean, that's huge. Avoiding being judged is huge. And that takes you out of choice. Because if you're avoiding being judged, then you have to then look at, what can I choose so that I don't get judged? What can I choose so that I can fit in with this group of people so that they will approve of me and not judge me? And then I'll fit in.
And interestingly, as you say that, what's in my head is that while you're trying to avoid being judged, it's the judgment of yourself. You don't necessarily know that that group of people are judging you in that way, but it's what you perceive to be the judgment. So it's really your own judgment of
It
self.
absolutely is. And that's a really key point, Susan, because when you become aware that you are judging you, then you can look at, okay, so if I wasn't judging me right now, what else is possible? What else could I choose here? And, you know, if I was willing to actually begin to let go of all these judgments of me, what could I create then as my life? Like if I wasn't trying to fit in or get people to approve of me or not judge myself. You know, if I was willing to actually begin to be grateful for me and honor me and be kind to me. We're so unkind to
Mm.
ourselves, you know. But it's the way we, and this is not about blaming anybody either. It's not about blaming your parents or your school or the way you were brought up. It's more about acknowledging, okay, so that's what occurred. That's the way life was. This is what I thought was real and true. And now what? Now what can I choose? Now that I'm um, I'm acknowledging that there is actually something different, that there is actually there's a set of tools and processes that are energetically based, because it's what we are. We're energetic beings, you know. We're infinite beings, and that's essentially what this is all about. It's about, if I was truly being me, the infinite being, what would I choose today? Like if I was truly being an infinite being, would I judge myself? Would I be unkind to myself? You know, would I judge anybody else? And the less you judge yourself, the less inclined you are to judge other people. In Access Consciousness, they call it being in allowance. So having allowance for you is not trying to align or agree or get it right. And it's not resisting or reacting being wrong. It's being interesting point of view. It's just being, well, that's just interesting. It's not right or wrong. It's just, okay, that's interesting that I'm choosing that. What else is available? What else is possible? And for most people, that's like, hang on a second, what are you talking about? Do you not, it's all about polarity. This society is all about polarity. You have to be right or you have to be wrong. But what if there was actually something else possible, something else available? And it's a totally different way of being. And if it's a journey you choose, you get to choose every day. Every day you get to choose whether to get out of bed with a smile on your face or get out of bed. And the thing is, you can choose to be grumpy. It's not a bad choice. You might enjoy it. You might enjoy getting up in the morning and going, I'm going to do 2 minutes of being grumpy.
You get it over and done with.
I enjoy it. Yeah.
That's
Do
my
I want to be
grumpiness for the
grumpy?
day.
That's it. Would I like to be grumpy for the whole day? Is that going to work for me? Maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you can tell, Susan, access consciousness is never about coming to conclusion. It's always about asking questions. So asking questions that will create, that will give you awareness, that will create a possibility, that don't just lead you to a conclusion. It's not about getting answers. So I tell people when I do sessions or classes with them, I don't have any answers for you. And I'm here ready and willing to facilitate you to choose and to ask the questions that will create different possibilities for you. Mm. So it's a totally different language.
Yeah. Do you think it needs to start with having your bars run?
That's always a great place to start. Well, it was for me. It was for me. And
you mentioned, if you don't mind me interrupting, you mentioned that you had the bars run because you had gone for a massage. Did you know about access consciousness before you had that, or did the masseur introduce you to this?
Yes. Well, I didn't cognitively know about it, but obviously somewhere in my being, I knew about it. And I went for the massage and she said to me, look, I can do you a massage, but I also do this other stuff called access consciousness. And I do something called the bars. And I can run your bars. And that immediately I went, bing. That's always a good clue. If someone talks to you about something and your world lightens up and you kind of have this space, then head towards that, because that's a great clue. This is going to work for me. So I said, let's do that. And she ran my bars for about an hour. And to be honest, afterwards, I drove home and I thought, that was okay. That was all right. It was okay. But the next day I woke up and I went, that bar stuff, I think I'm going to have to do it again. So I went back again the week later. And after the second time, I said, I think I like this. And she said, well, you can learn it in a day. So I learned it. I did it once, and then I decided very quickly I wanted to become a facilitator that could run the bars and teach sessions. So I did it 3 times.
So in that week, between having your bars run at a massage and then waking up and going, I need to be a facilitator or whatever, had you noticed a significant benefit even in that week?
What I can say, because a lot of this stuff is just not cognitive. It's like an energy of knowing. It's like a knowing. And I did feel kind of a lightness in my body. But it was more I've got to do this. Like, I can't tell you why I've got to do it, but I have to do this. And I've been like that now for 12 years. I've been doing this, I've been doing the processes and the classes I eventually did many classes to become a certified facilitator so that I could teach the foundation class, which is for 4 days. Absolutely miraculously life-changing class. And life just expands. It just expands. And I'm sometimes surprised by how I function so differently. And I have to kind of go, oh, that's right. Other people don't think like this, you know? Yeah. So when other people are looking for the problems or want to join other people or have got similar problems or want to talk about the problems or want to have a drama or a trauma because that's what they're used to, I'm kind of like, oh, okay, that's what you're choosing. That's really interesting. But that's not going to work for me. What else is possible? What would I like? What would
So,
I like as, yeah,
so
go.
no, I was just going to say, so what I'm picturing here is that we who don't run under Access Consciousness, when we do have a problem or a drama or a trauma, as you put it, we're actually choosing to go down that route and to make it a drama, you know, mountains out of molehills, as it were, as opposed to
Yes.
choosing to let it happen, to accept the reality or whatever, or I don't know, to ask a question to try and resolve it.
Yeah. Well, when you look around, Susan, do you see people who think they're powerless?
Oh yeah.
Or, yeah.
Often
So,
it comes to each of us, doesn't it?
yeah, because we've not been made aware of anything other than that.
Mm.
Or there are some people who choose to have power over, but the power and potency I'm talking about is the power that you acknowledge about yourself that's actually not just going to create something greater for you, but that's going to create something greater for everyone, for the planet, and everyone if they choose it. See, not everyone's choosing it. The animals might choose it, nature might choose
Mm.
it, the trees, you know, nature is dynamically powerful, and we are too. We just don't choose that.
Yeah,
We
that's
think we're,
interesting.
we think we're pathetic, but we're not.
Yeah, I suppose, and as well, um, some of us know that we're powerful, but then when a particular incident comes along, it's almost as if we forget that. So there are certain areas of our life we feel that we are decision makers and powerful. In other areas of our life, we're going, "Oh my goodness, you know, I can't
Yes.
can't deal with this or whatever." So
Yeah. Yeah. And certainly for me, like there are still areas of my life where, and every day I'm using the tools, every day. And there are some days when I go, okay, what's going on here? Whatever it is. It might be something that's going on with my body, or it might be that I've decided this particular day that my body's aging, you know, and I don't know,
yeah, I know.
my bones are creaking or whatever it is. And I might find myself buying into that, you know, for half a day or something. I'm not going to the gym because I'm too old. I'm going to pop my feet up and, you know, watch telly or whatever. And I may indulge in that for a while. The trick is that when I become aware that I'm doing that, I don't make myself wrong.
Yeah.
I've now got to the point where I can go, oh, well, that was an interesting morning. You know, what's going on here?
So we're back to judging
And
ourselves again.
yeah. So
Yeah.
then I'll choose some tools and I may take half a day to grab some tools, to use some of the questions, some of the clearings. I might go to a friend and get my bars run. But my choice is to choose something different because that's not working for me. That powerlessness, that pretending I'm powerless, it doesn't work for me. So then I choose something different.
So you mentioned the tools that you use.
Hmm.
Is that got through it won't be got through the running the bars, so you need to
Yes.
go and do a
Yep.
course for the
No,
tools.
no, running the bars is an awesome way, because what getting your bars run does is, if you imagine beginning to let go of the points of view
Mhm.
and the limitations and all of the presumptions that we
Yeah.
have about things that we have to do, ways that we have to react, ways that we have to fit in. When you start, it's like defragging your computer. So when you start to defrag your mind, your brain, then you have the space then to actually choose something different. And the more that you get your bars run, so it might start subtly, which it did with me. You might just start to sleep better. You might feel more relaxed. You may have a little bit more clarity. You may not find certain people as annoying as you used to, you know.
Whoa.
Yeah. So subtle things begin to occur, and then that you realize that, oh, I've been getting my bars run. Oh, I don't do that. Oh gosh, I don't react in that way anymore. Or that doesn't bother me. Yeah. And then, like me, you look back 12 years and go, wow, I am actually a totally different person. I'm totally different.
Did you
And
notice that your friends reacted differently to you as well? Did they begin to
yes,
say, what have you got? And I want it.
some of them did. And some of them went, what are you doing? Because it's making me feel uncomfortable. Because I quite like my drama. And then, for me, it was, that's okay, that they have to choose their journey.
Mm.
It's not for me to judge their journey. I'm not necessarily choosing that. I think the people closest to you, and I'm sure Chris will tell you the same, it's the people who are close to you that suddenly become a little bit uncomfortable. And for me, it was choosing to be kind, really, because they're like, my husband doesn't do it. Well, he kind of vicariously does access consciousness because he's lived with me for a long time, but he doesn't. Now he does let me run his bars, which is awesome. But he's very supportive of my choice. But it's not for me to impose that upon him.
No.
That has to be his choice, and he'll do it, he'll do it his way. But
Yeah.
yes, and then there are people around who are going, what are you doing? I want some of that. Most definitely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It must make a difference, if you're already lighter in the way that you eh, react and behave with other people connected to you. It must make a difference to how they see it. And I could imagine from my point of view, I'd be saying, I want some of that. I want to be able to live like that, rather than, your happiness is making me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, but
Surely
that's
we
it.
should always be striving
I
for the
know.
happy land.
Yes, yeah. But that's such a true comment. For some people, their happiness makes people uncomfortable. Yeah. There's a saying in Access, like, people will say, what's wrong with you, very comfortably. But if you're happy, they'll say, what drug are you taking? What drugs are you on? You're too happy. What drugs are you on? But if it's like, oh, what's wrong with you? What can I do? How can I join you in your misery? That's much more comfortable for some people
Yeah,
than
but it's
actually being happy.
but this is where the self-esteem comes in, because if their self-esteem is already low, they want to recognize that yours is even lower. So there must be something wrong with you to make them feel better, because it's not wrong with them.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
do recognize that a lot.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. People, yeah, we look for what's wrong with others so we can feel slightly better about ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah. And every so often, I'm guilty of that as well. And then I have to slap myself.
Yeah.
I slap myself
Well,
a lot.
what if instead you kind of went, okay, great awareness here. I'm aware that I'm doing it, because not everyone has that. Not
Mm,
everyone can actually go, I could slap myself here because I just realized this is what I'm doing.
yeah.
Maybe isn't that kind to me or them. So what else is possible? That's it's a great access consciousness question. So what else is possible?
Mhm.
How does it get any better than this? When things are going wrong and when things are going well, that question, the universe will go, oh, it gets better this way, or it gets better this way. And what else is possible now is another awesome question.
Mm,
Because ask and you shall receive is actually true. You ask a question, the universe can't wait to show you.
yeah.
Can't wait to show you.
The key thing and the key problem with most of us is that we're not open to recognizing the answer. Um, it's almost as if we ask the question, oh, where am I supposed to go from here? But then we shut ourselves down when the answer comes and don't recognize it.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a muscle.
I notice
Yeah.
I'm quite guilty at, I noticed this myself the other day, and I can't remember what the topic was, but there was something or other, and I was thinking what to do, and something came through immediately, and I thought, yeah, I'll go and do that. And then I went, oh, but hang on a minute. But what if this and what if that? And by the time I'd analyzed it, I'd sort of put myself off, and then I went, why are you doing this? Just go back and do it, you know? So it was the first thought that came in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I should just have done it there and then.
Yeah. 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 That's where the light and heavy tool, there's a light and heavy tool that we talk about. And for you, that I will go and do this. Was that light for you or was that
Yeah.
heavy for you?
Yeah, that the immediate one seemed, yeah, that's fine. And
Yeah.
then I went, hang on a
Yeah.
minute. Should you
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
And then it
You
becomes
let your head
heavy.
get in the way. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you let your head get in the way instead of choosing that was light for that 10 seconds.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's okay. Now you're aware that that light energy, let's follow that. And it's not about getting it right either. You may follow that and it may be, oh, I'm not so sure about that. Okay, I'll choose again. So it's never about making yourself wrong. It's never about sticking with just one choice. You can change all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely need an appointment with Chris, I think, next month. Um, I'll get back
Highly
in touch with
recommend
him.
it.
But
Yes.
he was also saying that you are involved with children's access and parenting
Mm,
and so on.
yes.
So what other
Yes.
streams are there and how do you manage
Okay.
them?
So there's a lot of specialities, they're called, in access consciousness. Lots of different ones. One's about the body, one's about money, there's one's about business. And the one I do is called Conscious Parents, Conscious Kids. And that's my background anyway. So I'm a child and adolescent mental health nurse. So for me, it was just kind of this natural, wow, there's all these tools that's available to empower parents and kids. Very different to what I'd done in nursing, but so much easier.
Mhm.
And I have 4 grandchildren, aged 10 to 14. And so I've been able to practice all these
Mm,
tools with them. And it's just a totally awesome way of parenting that doesn't involve sacrificing yourself once you have children, that doesn't involve trying to control your children, that doesn't involve trying to parent the right way or avoid doing it the wrong way. it's the energetics of parenting. So it's about not trying to come to conclusion about, you know, what rules you should use, or how you should control your kids. It truly is about creating our kids as leaders, and that involves letting them know that they can actually choose and create their own lives, and that it's okay to make a mistake, and that you don't have to judge yourself, and you don't always have to get it right. And life's meant to be about fun, even when you go to school.
Yeah.
And that kids, that they know,
Mm.
kids know. It's not just about getting information. It's about trusting your knowing, trusting your inner knowing. And we never, well, I was never taught that as a kid.
Mhm.
No one ever said to me, what do you know?
No, no, they're more into, especially in schools, they're more into teaching them how to research and get somebody else's opinion. Now, but I do notice difference between being a parent and being a grandparent.
Oh,
Um,
same.
I've got two grandchildren. One's just turned 8 and the other's just turned 3. The 3-year-old I don't see very much, but um, the 8-year-old I see quite a bit because she lives in the same town and I get her after school and odd days during the holidays and so on and so forth. And
Yeah.
I'm sort of working with her to yeah, accept the choices and you know, when she takes a tantrum because this isn't working or that's not working, or when something goes wrong, you're choosing to be like this, you know, rather than trying to help her to cooperate and negotiate as well, rather than just fly into a tantrum about not having her own way and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I noticed, you know, I thinking back, it's almost being a granny is almost having to admit to being very hypocritical because I'm sure I was much more strict and down the line with
Oh,
my 3, you know,
yeah.
trying to be a good parent, not knowing what a good parent was.
No.
Because mine were good parents, but they're very strict. So not knowing what a good parent was, um, trying to be a good parent. And now being a granny is just a totally different. Just as an example, I did have the 3-year-old here a couple of weeks ago. They had gone to see their other granny first, who's further away, Nana, I think they call her. And the 3-year-old had been fascinated by this painted stone that Granny had, or other Nana had. Um, and she was using it as a doorstop, and the 3-year-old had picked it up and was looking at it. And, oh no, no, that was no good. So it got put away in the shelf. You might. It was a stone, and she comes without knowing this. She comes here and she's looking for things to do. And I get down all the crystals and wee bags, and she's looking at all this treasure and so on and so forth. And I bring down boxes with crystals in them. And what I had forgotten was that there was a 10-ounce bar of silver, a special bar of silver that I'd got in the box. And of course, she
Yeah.
finds this, and she went, "Oh, heavy." And her dad
Ah,
said, "What's that?" And I went, "Yeah, well, it will be kind of heavy for her. It's 10 ounces of silver." And he went, "Oh, she shouldn't have that." And I went, "Why?" "Oh, well, I mean, it's precious." And I went, "She's not going to walk out the door with it. You know, just let her have it, let her feel it, and let her experience it."
yeah.
And it was this difference. If that had been my child in somebody else's house, I would have been doing the same. Oh, don't touch that or don't touch this. But as a granny, it's, you know, experience this, take them, hide them, play with them,
Yes.
sell them,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
a-
Sure.
and it's a completely different,
It is.
just being a granny. So it's hypocritical parenting.
What I was immediately aware of when you told that story was, what did she know? What did she know about that bar of silver?
Mhm.
Like, you know, this is precious. Like, this is valuable. Out of all of that, this is what's precious and valuable. Like, that's her knowing.
Exactly.
That's her knowing what it is in there.
Yeah.
So to kind of acknowledge, wow,
Exactly.
you pick the valuable thing. So what else do you know about stuff that's valuable?
Well, exactly. I'm wondering about her because they had in their trip, because they live in Scotland, I live in the middle of England, so they had done a tour of friends and family while they were about. And one of their stops, they had visited friends who had a baby, 7 months or whatever, and the baby was crying, quite sorely crying. And the 3-year-old Edie went up and just put a hand either side, held his wee face, and she went, "You're okay. I've got you. I've got you."
Yeah, yeah,
And I said to the parents, "Is this an expression that you use?" And they went, "No, we don't know where she's got it."
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's the
And
knowing.
that's it. That's exactly. But kids have that,
I know.
and we don't always acknowledge it.
Or worse, we
We don't.
knock it out of them.
Yes. Or we tell them they're wrong and bad, and they shouldn't play with the silver, or they shouldn't touch the child. And yeah. And what if there was something totally different with being with your kids or your grandkids? And yeah, for sure. For me, grandkids are an absolute joy, and it's so much fun. And I totally take advantage of the and my kids, I've got two kids, and they're so funny because they're always saying, "There is no way we'd get away with that. Or you would never have let us do that." But I just say, "Yeah, I know, I'm terrible.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm
Hypocritical
bad."
parenting.
Yeah, yeah, I know, but I'm having so much fun.
So
Yeah.
when you're working with parents and children,
Mm.
do you work with the parents of the children or do you work directly with the children?
It depends. I ask a lot of questions. I ask going to create the greatest, what's going to create the most. Often I'll have a quick chat with the parents, and then I'll say, "Can you wait?" And I I I talk to the kids if they're happy for me to run their bars for 30 minutes while I talk to them, then I do that. Sometimes they just fall asleep, but I get a lot of awareness about what's going on for them. And then I'll give the parents what they can hear and give them some tips to work with.
Yeah.
But it's not about the kid being the identifiable problem. It's never that. It's what can we do here so that we're empowering everybody. So it's just a totally different way of approaching it all. And it's always letting the kids know there's nothing wrong here.
Mm-hmm.
In actual fact, it's the opposite. You're here because there's something special that maybe everyone's not yet acknowledged.
Yeah.
But that's it. Yes, you are. Yes, you are different, but it's good different.
Interesting. So when you say special, are you recognizing spirituality in that child, a special knowing, an ability to
Yeah,
identify their knowing?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. All of that. Yeah.
Right.
Often kids that display all of that sort of stuff often have abilities and capacities and awareness. They're often psychic, they're often healers, and it's usually, not only is it not acknowledged, but they're usually given diagnoses or you know, they're usually not acknowledged for their amazingness. It's
I, I,
usually the opposite.
I can see in you from the way you reacted as you were telling that last wee bit there that this almost upsets you and you get very emotionally involved with these situations as well.
No, quite the opposite.
You
I
think?
don't. No,
No?
no, it doesn't. No, it's not that. It's an awareness of what is actually possible. And for me, it's more of an impatience
Mm.
of I really need to um there's not enough hours in the day,
Yeah.
or I would love to get out there to bigger groups. I'd love to travel more, and it's not about me going out there and saving everyone. It's more about I love what I do. Um, I have these tools. I have this ability to share all of this with people, and I just think kids are amazing.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, absolutely.
And
What age range of
there's a
children?
pizza.
Yeah, what age range of children do you work with?
Any age
Any
at
age.
all. Yeah,
Right.
I used
Okay.
to work with babies. So, you know, you can work with babies.
Yeah.
Babies are psychic. Yeah. And when I worked in a mother and baby unit, I would work with baby. I would hold the baby and chat with the
Mm.
baby and do some energetic stuff. And yeah,
Nice.
so
I,
uh,
I,
birth to 18.
right. When I took early retirement from a proper job, and I had a small pension with that because I wasn't in paid employment when my children were little. I knew that up until a certain age, I needed to be there. So I had given up on paid employment and was just a mother. Not just a mother by any manner of means, but anyway. Um, so I had a very small pension when I took retirement. And we moved at that time down to Cornwall. And uh, I didn't have quite enough. I probably would have had enough to live on, but I went back because I had done some work with preschool groups in the past. Um, I saw an advert for a temp assistant with a nursery. So I thought, right, I could do that. So to cut a long story short, I wasn't with nursery. I ended up full-time permanent with special needs children in a mainstream primary. Um, and it, I can't explain it was probably the most satisfying work I've ever done, even although it was
Yeah,
only temporary. I mean, I was only there for a few years. The money they pay these people doesn't allow them to take it on as, uh, uh, um, I couldn't have lived on that wage alone, 30 hours a week at basic minimum rate, if I was paying rent on property or anything like that. So I'm so grateful that I had that bit of pension, which meant I could do this, even though it was at the end of my working career, as it were. And when I left, the head teacher at the time had come and said, "But why? You get them." And I went, and I'm thinking to myself, it's not, yes, I've got a good relationship with these children, but it's because I treat them as individuals.
yeah,
Yeah, and there's way too much of trying to be down with the kids, which I never did. I just treated each one like they were my own, almost, as an individual child. And it saddened me actually to see the interaction between some teachers and the children. Um,
yeah,
so, I mean, the teacher that I was working with at the time, I'll never forgive her for this, but she went around and said, how are we going to miss her when she goes? And I thought, oh, yeah, bring on the emotional side. But anyway, one wee girl said she gives the best hugs. And I thought, isn't that sad that the best hugs have to come from an outsider who's in the school
yeah,
and not from our mum or our granny or whatever? But it was in a really unfortunate area, uh, school catchment area. But it was the most satisfying work I've ever done. And I wasn't able to do the positive work you're doing, like counseling them. And I was just listening to them.
yeah.
So,
I do wonder, like, were they aware that you were not judging them?
yeah, probably.
Yeah. And how often do we get that? Somebody in our world that's actually not there to judge us. And kids respond to that. And you don't have to be out doing paid work or being a counselor. Like, just you being you, not judging those kids. You could do that. You could be sitting at a bus stop and smile at a kid, and they'll get that you're not judging them.
Yeah.
And you've made their day just by being you. And that's what Access Consciousness is about as well. Dr. Dane, who's one of the co-creators, does a class called Being You, Changing the World. He's written a book called Being You, Changing the World. And it's an awesome book. You can get it on Audible. You can buy hard copies online. And that's what you were doing, Susan. You were being you, not judging the kids. And they responded to that.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. It's like being willing to just be you, acknowledge them, not judge them, be grateful for them.
There's so many rules, and they're all worried about safeguarding, and you know, some of these kids just need a hug. It's as simple as that. But however, so you must get a huge amount of reward from that work. Is that your main work now then, the working with the families and children?
Well, not just families and children. Probably the most I do is the teaching the classes. So I do individual work, but I teach conscious parents kids classes online.
Ah, right. Okay.
Yeah, so I can do that around the world. And then I teach accessbars classes, which is a day class, and the foundation class, which is 4 days. And I do live classes of those. And yeah, I'll go wherever anyone asks me to go and do any of the classes. So I'm not nursing anymore. The facilitation and the work I do with individual people is my job. It's my business. Yeah. It's what I do all the time. Yeah.
But
And
you're basically spreading happiness, so it's a good job.
It's great. It's awesome. I love it. And the thing about it is, you know, the more when you facilitate other people, you're facilitating yourself at the same time. So, like, consciousness includes everything and judges nothing. And when you're working with that to create more consciousness, to facilitate non-judgment, and including everything, oneness and no judgment, like that's you know, when you work with that with people, and choice, and people can choose it or not choose it, and when they choose it and they're willing to receive and they're willing to be facilitated, and you are part of that creation, it's awesome, it's joyful. You know, how does it get any better?
It does absolutely sound awesome. I'm sitting here wondering, how can I pull together a groups of parents to do a session with you? I don't know if it would be possible, but it's what's needed, isn't it? It's just what's needed to get over that. I think there's so much pressure on parents to get it right. And I remember saying to my 4-year-old, because she I was a new parent. I didn't have any siblings with young children. I had never had an awful lot to do with young children. I lived in Edinburgh at the time. All my family were, you know, an hour and a half bus ride away. So, and very isolated, or I felt that way in a flat in Edinburgh. And I didn't find it easy. Hands up, I didn't find it easy at all. And my first child, she wouldn't sleep. She wouldn't eat, she wouldn't sleep. I mean, she would feed and then she would throw it up, but apparently there was nothing wrong with her. She had the weirdest way eventually of getting to sleep, and that she would lie. The first time she did it, it freaked me out. I thought she was having a fit. But the first time she did it, she was here because she was just a little person. And she basically kicked her legs constantly until she was pouring with sweat and her body was way heated up. And then, boom, she fell asleep.
Yeah,
And I
right.
thought, she's had a fit, or she's, a seizure. So I was panicking, but when I laid her down, everything, she was perfectly okay. She was calm, her breathing was regular, everything was all right. And I thought, whoa. And then this became her habit because up until then she wouldn't sleep. And then as she got bigger, she would lie along your thigh and with her legs kicking off at your knee, and she would kick, 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 and fall asleep. And then
Mm.
as she got bigger again, she would lie along the arm of the chair until one of the chairs was worn thin. The fabric was
Yeah,
worn
right.
away at one
Yeah,
end.
yeah.
And I've never known another child to do that, but she walked at 8.5 months. She was very, yeah, very well developed. Had I known better, I would, what known now, what I knew that if I'd known then what I know now, I would have treated it differently. But all in all, it was really difficult. And then when our wee sister came along, when she was 2.5, and our wee sister came along, and then it all went to pot again. So, having trying to do things right, um, without knowing what was right, and without knowing, just let it be and nurture them. Just
Yeah,
nurture being the word.
yeah.
Um,
And relax.
which I didn't do, with
Mm.
mine. She was difficult. She's still difficult. She's now 37.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
right.
and I keep saying to her, with my granddaughter, I said, you don't deserve that, granddaughter. You were never that good. But yeah, it's just if you'd known then. But so what you're doing with parenting and this non-judgment, and this
Yeah,
parenting is a really tough job.
it's a tough gig and it changes every day.
Mm.
And it's okay. You can actually say, do you know what? I've got kids and I actually didn't even want them. And how often can you actually admit that?
Mm.
Actually, I didn't want kids. Actually, I found it hard. Actually, I didn't really enjoy it at all. You
Yeah.
know, that is like, oh, the greatest judgeable offense in the world.
And that's one of the reasons I never say to newly married couples or newly together couples, so when are you
Mm.
starting a family? And way
Yeah.
too often you expect a couple to be married for 2 years and start a family and have a first child for 2 years and have another one
Mm.
and another two. And I learned early on never to ask if people don't want a family, don't have it, because the worst parents in the world are the ones that didn't want it in the first place.
Yeah.
So if you don't feel capable of it, don't do it. There's no
Yeah.
it is not an easy thing. But interestingly, that same daughter just recently, well, over the past few years, should I say in the summer of 2020, and that'll let you know what we're talking about.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yes.
In the summer of 2020, she was telling people to build up your vitamin D3. Don't worry about all of this nonsense. Build up your vitamin D3. And then, of course, eventually the reports came out to say that one of the key factors in getting over the problem was vitamin D3. So the paper started coming out. And I said to her just recently, I said, do you remember back when you were telling people to vitamin D was the source of the problem? Yeah. I says, how did you know that? Oh, I don't know. Well, she says, you knew. I says, no, we knew after. We got the confirmation after you started talking about it. How did you know? Oh, she says, I maybe read it somewhere. I went, no, the proof wasn't out when you were telling people. How did you know? I says, maybe you should just accept that you knew. and
Yeah.
think about other things that you just know
No. Yeah.
and just accept it. And because she's not in, I mean, she'll listen to me and she'll listen to what I'm talking about and, a bit of the woo, but she's not really into it. So when I'm just trying to get her to accept that, hang on a minute, you're special
Yeah.
and you need to accept that you're special. So yeah, I
Yeah.
wish I had been a better parent 30 years ago.
Oh, look. So what I would say to you is, we would all like to change some of the things that maybe we did.
Mm,
I'm sure we'd all like to kind of parent in a different way, or parent the way we would like to have been parented, um, and regret doesn't get us anywhere.
mm. No,
It's
it
just
doesn't.
it's
It doesn't.
it's
It doesn't.
just
We need to
another
learn from it.
judgment. So it's more kind of, okay, I did what I knew was best at that time. That's what we did, because that was the information we
Mm,
had. We did our best at the time, as did our parents. And so it's like, and now what? So now what? What can I choose now? What can I be and do different
mm,
now to create something greater in the future?
mm.
So we tend to function from the past,
Yeah.
trying to
Yep.
recreate the past, trying to recreate a better past, or trying to put right our wrongs instead of clean slate.
Yeah.
What would I like to create now? How would I like to see the world? Like,
Mm,
if I could change anything, what would it be? What can I be in the world to make a difference? And it can be like little things. It's the little things. It's the little miracles that kind of change things, that make up the big miracles.
mm.
It doesn't have to be like, I don't know, finding another planet or doing it. Can be. It can be. And, and it can also be the little energies, just the different choices, just saying, how does it get any better than this?
Yeah.
And what else is possible? Just asking those questions when you think you're stuck. Just asking those questions when you're going, wished I'd been a better parent. Okay, that was then. Wow, how does it get any better now? What can I choose now? What else is possible now? If I wasn't judging me, what else would be possible? What can I choose?
I think it's the type of thing where we all need a regular kickstart.
It's
Way
yeah,
too easy for life for you to get wrapped up in your day-to-day problems and forget.
yeah,
Nope, step back,
absolutely,
step back. Yeah.
absolutely. Dr. Dane here says we live in a carrot soup, and then we think we're a carrot, but we're not. We're not a carrot. Just because we live in the soup doesn't mean that we're the carrot. We can
Well, you are
actually
what you
choose
eat after all.
something. You can choose something else. You can choose something, but it's like going to the gym. It's a 10-second choice by choice by choice by choice, and then wake up the next day and okay, and today what?
Are
But it
you?
becomes. Sorry, go.
No, no, no. I was just going to say you mentioned that you've got two children and you've got all your
Mm.
grandchildren. Are your children um now catching on to this parenting method with their children? Have you managed to
Um,
achieve that?
Yeah, well, it's funny because there was a little resistance at first, and I get that the resistance was my need for them to choose that. Then when I was willing to actually drop that, and they choose it if they choose it, and having allowance for me and allowance for them as to what they chose as their parenting style. And I say to them, don't parent like I did, parent like you would like to parent. Do your thing, you know. But it's sort of a vicarious thing, like they pick things up,
Mm.
and so now they definitely use the tools without even thinking about it, I think, a lot of the time. Yeah,
That's
they
good.
just do it.
Are you
Yeah.
quite close to you?
Yep. Yep. One's 10 minutes away, one's 20 minutes away, and the four cousins get along brilliantly. And we all have dinner here every Monday. And I'm just crazy nanny.
Yeah,
I'm the
that's
crazy
good.
nanny. Yeah, I'm the crazy lady.
But I think you have to
And
be. That, you know, there's certain. I mean, you're probably the same. There are things that my grandmother did in ways that she did it that I see myself now, you know, coming through. I don't whip my grandchildren with a tea towel when they're naughty.
yeah,
I don't make them scrub the steps, and so on. But yeah, there are
the
certain
little
traits.
things trickle through, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Scotland, there's a phrase on the old Scots, your granny is the woman. I'll try and make it more English for you. Your granny is the woman who stops your mummy from hitting you.
Huh? Yes. I love that. I love that. Yeah.
So yeah, and that was the role I had in the school as well. I was the school granny, you know, so
Yes.
when they had
Stop
a
the
hard
teaching.
time.
Nothing. Yeah, it's great. I
Oh,
love it. Love it.
Pam, it's fabulous talking to you. Is there anything else you
Thank
think
you
that
too.
I'd be curious actually as to what you think or what personal situation have you been involved with that you thought you had made the biggest change in a person? You know, have you had a
Ooh.
real
Uh, the biggest change in a person. That's a really good question. I don't know whether it's what it wouldn't be like this session changed this huge thing.
no.
It's I've you get a lot of testimonials and feedback from people saying things like, "Oh, that class changed my life." The bars class, particularly, I get a lot of feedback going, "Oh my goodness, that was the pivotal moment when I chose to take the bars class."
Mm,
And now I get
okay.
my bars run and I run other people's bars. So I do hear that a lot, the learning the bars and getting the bars run and knowing that when you're going into overwhelm, you can just say, I just need to get my bars run. And knowing that you will have some ease and some relaxation once you have done that.
So
So that's the
you would see that as being needed on a regular basis.
yeah, I get my bars run at least once a week. Every week I get my
Oh,
bars run.
wow. That's quite a lot then.
Yes. And my grandchildren, I ran my grandson's bars today and yesterday because he's been a bit unwell. But my grandkids ask me if my 14-year-old granddaughter's had a tough day, she'll come in here on a Monday and go, Nanny, and can you run my bars? I do say to them, you can have your bars run just for the fun of it as well. You don't have to be in a crisis. But
But if she's
they
14,
absolutely
she's
the
always
time.
in a crisis.
Exactly. I could run her bars every day and often do. But she has also learned, so she knows how to run bars. She
Oh,
runs her
wow.
mum's bars. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah.
nice.
So that wasn't a real answer to your question, but there's not, I'd say that for me is the regular feedback I get.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
is the bars. The bars is awesome.
Glorious. Glorious. Um,
But if you wanted to share this with the people that, aren't around at this time of the day for you, I'm happy to do this again if people have got questions and you want to know more.
oh, that would
Yeah,
be
please
lovely.
just ask
Yeah,
me.
I find it, I do find it an attractive um proposition. I'm looking at all sorts of things. I'll hang on, I'll talk to you in a wee minute. I'm going to close the recording so that we don't keep this up.
Mm.
So for the sake of the group, I'll say thank you very much, Pam Grace, and we'll undoubtedly chat again.